Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. This is the podcast for middle managers who want to develop themselves, develop their teams, and improve their results. I got to talk to a CEO. He helps service business leaders attract, train, and retain higher quality employees. I'm talking about Clifton Savage. Join me today. And Clifton really got into what is it about the service industry that is so tough? What is it that leaders are missing, particularly in the hiring and retaining of top talent? How do they get goals aligned? And what exactly is the attraction system? You don't want to miss a second of this important conversation. Let's get at it.
This episode is brought to you by Kitcaster. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. How do funded startup founders attract prospects and talent? Podcast interviews. How do entrepreneurs with exits find new deals? Podcast interviews. How do C-suite execs differentiate in crowded markets? Podcast interviews. Kitcaster books you on top podcasts. Click the link in the show notes for a special offer. Celebrate good conversation.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of the Leading from the Middle podcast. I have a terrific leader with me today who is going to give you a lot of great advice when it comes to hiring, retaining folks, especially as we go into 2024. Man, we just lose people so fast, not just in some of the industries that he's going to talk about, but in all industries. So I want to introduce, he's a CEO and he helps service business leaders attract, train, and retain higher quality employees. Clifton Savage has joined me today. Clifton, it is so great to have you with me. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, Kenny. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, absolutely. This is my pleasure. I really want to start with your backstory because I love how you've targeted this as a path for you to help leaders out there. How did you get to that place where you wanted to start your own business?
Not by choice, but I believe it was in the making for a long time. When you take a look back at my history, all the experiences I've had, the good and the bad, honestly got me to this point of being able to see things from a different perspective. That the people that are stuck, kind of like what you're talking about, trying to figure out why they keep losing people, or why they can't attract more people. I've kind of been able to crack the code because I've been on both sides of the equation multiple times. So yeah, this is my chance to try and help people out, and I love that more than anything.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. What was maybe a lesson or two that you picked up along your journey that said, "Man, we've just got to do better"?
I would have to say, anytime that I came into a new company, I felt like there was just always drag with the onboarding process. Even if they had the greatest presentation, the greatest first step, the second step was always shaky. And so I
Yeah,
felt like that was something that everybody was missing.
yeah, absolutely. So the service industry, particularly, right? Wh- Why is it so tough? Let's start first. Why is it so tough to attract great people first? And then I definitely want to jump into the audit onboarding process because you have a lot that you advise to help that with. But why is it so tough to find, great people, particularly in that industry?
It's so hard to find and keep quality people in the service industry because it's so brutal. I mean,
Mm,
you're dealing with life, right? Probably to the one of the highest extents outside of frontline workers and military and pastors and counselors and all those types of people. The service industry, you're dealing with the public. You're dealing with the demands of the CEOs, the stakeholders. You're pretty much all the pressures on you, and you're feeling it, but you're not getting any of the support or the guidance to survive it.
yeah.
And so I feel like it's just for a lot of people, it's either turned them off, it turned them away by observing other people's struggles, or from them going through it themselves and just saying, you know what, this ain't for me.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think also the hours, right, are brutal as well. At times, especially like the, hotel industry and some other restaurants that are open till very, very late. And
Oh yeah.
I think everything you said is so dead on. Um, let's then talk about what that hiring process looks like. How can hiring, Clifton, start to look a little bit different? Are you still seeing just a traditional sit down interview? Um, are you finding some different ways that leaders out there are recruiting people? Just give us an overall impression on what you advise for the hiring process to kind of what shape should it form these days?
Absolutely. I believe one of the biggest things that these companies, these organizations struggle with is a lack of promotion. One thing I learned way back when I had the fortunate opportunity to be part of a fitness studio, a startup, with somebody that was really strong in business, really strong in sales and leadership, um, was that ABR, always be recruiting.
Mm.
And it was
Mhm.
always promoting that you have a strong company culture and you're always looking to add new team players. I believe a lot of companies, shy away from that, either because they just don't have the organization to keep constantly posting fresh, quality content, or they just don't think about it. They don't think it's valued enough, and so they just don't make the time or the effort or the financial investment to do that. And I believe that's the biggest thing that holds a lot of
Mm.
people back.
Yeah.
It's not the benefits, it's not the pay, it's not the work environment. Those all need improvement too, but it's a lack of promotion. No one knows you from Adam. Why would they apply for your job when they have all these other options out there? They're just going to look by you and not even tell you why. And
Yeah.
so that's why a lot of people are scratching their heads.
Yeah, and do you think that's really, really such a great point. Do you think also, because I used to notice this in the past that a lot of leaders would say, I want people to come after me and, it'll be a privilege to work for my company where it's been a long time, I think, that it's kind of shifted where, we should want to go after people as well. Has it been a pride thing, you think, with some companies?
Oh, absolutely. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are stuck in the old ways and
Yeah.
workers being desperate for work, and they'll take whatever they can. That's not the case, and we found
Yeah.
that even more so after COVID, and with just the growth of technology and being able to work from home and freelance and do all this stuff. I mean, it you may be working three jobs and piecemeal and stuff together, but that might be freedom to people rather than tying themselves to one company
Yeah.
that doesn't value them and may get rid of them the next time they, lose a little bit more profit margin.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. I mean, people have choices out there today, and they're taking advantage of them. Let's say now I've done everything right. I've got this great new hire, and I've got him in the back door, and you said onboarding, and that is a big part of what you do.
Yeah.
What's the onboarding process look like today, and how can it be better? What are some things you advise?
I think one of the biggest things is they don't, companies don't have the right material in place to really enlighten, empower, and equip their new hires. Even the people that their hiring manager or colleagues that will help shadow them and get them up to speed, they're just kind of figuring out on their own. There is nothing set in stone. There's no clear SOPs, standard operating procedures. There's no training manuals that's up to date, current, and easily digestible.
Mm,
And so a lot of people are just coming at it where they're either getting hit with too much, trying to drink from a fire hydrant, or they're not getting enough at all and they're trying to figure it out themselves. And, almost like the employer is saying, we hired you for your experience and your work history. So you should just know what to do. What are you doing? And it's
mm.
just, that's so disengaging and disenfranchising. It you know, just takes the relationship down a notch completely.
Yeah, no doubt. So how do you make it better?
So one of the best ways is, you have a lot of positions that need to be filled, right? We're talking like example, a current company that's already in operation. Taking the time to document everything is critical. And it's also a great opportunity to see where you're inefficient, see where we can make improvements.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of technology out there. You can do it yourself right now as you do your job. There's apps and softwares out there that can track everything you do and create a nice little training manual for you.
Yeah.
If you want to take it to the next level and have it more personal, more personable, more professional, and actually improved, not just doing it the old way we were doing it, but doing it more efficiently. That's where, people would bring someone else like us on to help document that and illustrate that process. But really, it comes down to feeding them the right information at the right time.
Yeah.
And so it's just a very orchestrated, very methodical onboarding schedule,
Mm.
timeline with everything that they need to know about the company, about the position, but even about themselves, and like the ideal personality that would be best for a certain position, because certain positions thrive with certain personalities, and
Mhm.
identifying that is key, and educating your employer on what that means is critical, and a lot of people miss that.
Yeah, no doubt. You said a lot of great things there. Um, does it does a one size fits all approach work today, or you mentioned making it a lot more personable to that particular employee? Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so you definitely need to make it more personal. Everyone learns differently.
Yes.
And some things you can learn more efficiently by doing it, hands on, versus watching a video versus listening to it versus reading and writing. And so it's a matter of what is best for that person, right? What's going to get their gears going? Is it having a dialogue versus having to be stuck in front of a computer, right? Some people just don't learn that way. They just want to watch the job happen, and they can learn much more faster that way. But some people, have testing anxiety, and they just don't learn in a vacuum. And we may discount them and think that they're not smart, or they're not capable of what they said they are, but it's just their learning style. And we don't take that into account. So being able to understand how someone learns, what excites them, how they want to learn, right? I have some people, you can have a great book, right? But some people don't want a physical copy. Some people want the ebook. Some people
Yeah.
want the audio book. Some people
Hmm.
want to watch the video. It's the same book, it's the same story, but you're consuming it in a different way. And so we really should have that discussion, that open dialogue with our new hires, and find ways to meet them in the middle with that type of presentation.
Yeah, and so that was going to be my next question. I think you really nailed it there with the learning styles. Do is it just merely having a conversation and finding out, or is there any sort of mechanism to find out early on what their learning styles is, even at the point of interviewing?
Absolutely. That'd be
Okay.
one of the first questions you can ask during that experience, because that's a great first impression too, Kenny, because the employer asking this candidate, well, how best do you learn? That can be a huge plus.
Yeah.
How many employers, when they're interviewing someone, is asking, how can I help you? Right.
Nobody.
And that's what our whole business is about, Service Leader Society, is how can the leaders be a service to their employees,
Mm.
not the expectation that's always been flipped the other way.
Yeah.
And so that's huge to ask that from the very beginning. And that goes a long way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you think about that employee sitting there in an interview, and you talked about how companies aren't selling themselves that great,
Yeah.
but that being one of the first quote, wow, they're interested in how I'm going to learn, right? So that
Yep.
means maybe it's going to be a little more personal for me. That's great. All right, so let's say we've done all that now. What are some things that you recommend to train employees? We'll start with that first, and then we'll talk about retaining them. But what should training look like, especially in those first 6 months or so?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, obviously the first thing is doing their job the right way,
Mm,
and showing them the standard that is there, but educating them on, hey, look, if you see a better way to do this, if you see a way to be more efficient, to be less wasteful, whether it's in waiting when you don't need to wait, overproducing, making mistakes and having to go back and redo stuff, all those things. That's empowering the employee now to look at and own their station, own their workspace, whether it's a desk, a truck, a shop, a phone, whatever it is, that's theirs
mm,
now. And they are the eyes and the ears to what's happening, and they can figure out what needs to be improved. But so you set that with the standards in place, but give them the opportunities to be open minded and see how they can improve that.
mm,
The next thing is, how does their position, how does their job affect those around them? So other people in the company, clients, vendors, what have you. And so being able to see the high level where they're at and how they affect those around them, and see all those pieces come together, right? They're not just in this cubicle by themselves where their work means nothing, goes in and out, they don't see anything. They need to see the fruit of that labor too. And
Mm.
so by being able to show that process to them and train them on how that affects things, good and bad, it creates more responsibility, but also creates more empowerment because now they see what they're doing is worthwhile. It's not meaningless. There's more value behind it. They're going to take it more personal, be more
Yeah.
intentional with it too.
Yeah, absolutely. They see where they fit in with the big picture, especially if it's, a big company. I love all that. And so your experience, how best do people train these days? Is it virtual? Is it in person? Or is it really just depends on the person's learning style as well?
Depends on the person's learning style, but I'll say the more options you give them, right? Because we're um, the workforce is getting younger, if you will, right? More people are retiring, getting older in their years, and so the younger workforce is more technologically savvy. So you have to give them more
Yes.
options on how
Yeah.
to consume stuff and
Yes.
also how to communicate stuff, right? They may not want to read the new changes on a piece of paper. They may want to see it, whether it's pictures or video. Um, there's so many ways to go about that. And it's a person by person basis.
Yeah.
But, ultimately, if you can find ways to convey how they fit into this whole, operational organization, and see where they're lacking in understanding how to fill those gaps, whether it's, hey, me as the employer didn't do a good job creating the standard, didn't do a good job conveying the training, or didn't do a good job of setting you up for success of, okay, well, this is the next level you can get to. Here's the way, right? Here's the tools. Um, Looking for those opportunities to make sure we fill those gaps as leaders will better set them up for success in their training journey, like you said, 6 months and beyond.
Yeah. Love that. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Let's talk about retaining them now. I don't understand uh, why companies don't spend more time on this piece, especially after we've invested now all of this time in recruiting and hiring and training and
Yeah.
getting them through, and then we just see them a few months later just leave, and it costs so much money, and we have to start the process over again. What are some things that you have been advising when it comes to how we retrain that top talent that we've worked so hard to get?
Yeah. So retention is, none of this stuff is uh, overly complicated, right? It's simple stuff. It's just being genuine to your employees. And so when you get to understand back what we're talking about the screening process and interviewing them for the first time, getting to know them better, understanding their goals and their aspirations, we want to see how we fit into that equation long term.
Hmm.
And so then that allows us to see, well, where do you want to go? How can we help you get there? Is that in the cards for us as an organization and a working partnership? So it's important to know where they want to get to and help them get there quickly, not, a year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years, whether it's financial compensation. I mean, you can talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs or, find out other ways that people find purpose, you know, um, you can figure out what makes them tick and
Yeah.
what makes them feel like they're fulfilling a purpose or feeling their life's calling, and then seeing how that aligns with their work, in their position and going back to the personality styles that fit for particular positions. Is this something that really excites them and it makes them look forward to their work, or is it something that drags them down and they're finding ways to get away from it or get distracted or just numb the pain, if you will, numb the boredom even. And
Hmm.
so finding ways to understand how they tick and then opening up opportunities to satisfy those needs and feel fulfilled, professionally is huge on retaining them. And so that doesn't, once again, it's not a one size fits all, but it is an opportunity to see how similar positions, similar personalities resonate with similar, opportunities, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all that. And I was thinking about what you said back at the beginning of making it personal right from the interview. Now, really, if we're staying on that train of keeping it personal, and we're concerned about you, the employee, and what really makes you tick. Um, I wanted to ask you a little bit about team building because you talk a lot about that as well. So, how can leaders really, what are some steps, especially new leaders, can take to building great teams, holding on to them, and then how do they measure that success?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I've seen in companies, for example, that have a negative work environment, or one that there's a lot of friction, is it usually comes down to a lack of communication, lack of humility, lack of respect. But ultimately, if we can address those things, we can start getting people to work together better.
Mm,
And it starts on an individual level. So team building doesn't start necessarily in a team setting. It actually starts that's my approach, is it starts on an individual level.
yeah.
Now I'll observe the team operations and their interactions with each other, and problem solving, and bringing up new ideas, and seeing how they communicate, seeing how they treat each other. But then I take that back to one-on-one meetings and kind of get deeper on who they are as a person, how they perceive others, and what those beliefs are then, displaying in those team interactions. So
Hmm.
that's where I start. But then as we work from there, of course, is building in, cadence of accountability. And so finding those common goals with the organization, with the departments, with the individual teams, and how they can work together for that common good, and see the benefits of it. Not that, the CEOs or the stakeholders said this is what you have to do themselves. They came up and they got bought into it themselves, and they have ownership now, and that's huge. And so that's where I start when it comes to team building.
Yeah, I love that. It's it that it again when someone thinks that they're part of a bigger thing and part of a team, and I love that you said it starts individual first and not like, hey guys, this is what everybody's gonna do.
Yeah.
I love that. This has been amazing. I have one other question for you, and then I want you to spend some time talking about how people can connect and work with you. Um, you'll talk about your website, you'll give it, and I'll make sure it's in the notes. But you've got something on your website called the attraction system, and I know that goes deep. That would be probably a whole other show. Give us an overview though, because as I saw it, it caught my eye, and then I saw exactly why you named it the attraction system. What is that all about?
Yeah, so the attraction system is essentially helping, predominantly COOs, but anyone involved in the hiring process, dealing with the labor effects in their organizations, from the top down. And what we're doing is we're essentially helping them attract, train, and retain top talent in 60 days or less.
Mm,
And if we don't complete it in 60 days, they get another month free. And the reason behind that is because these problems people need to solve, they need solved quickly,
yeah.
not 6 months to 12 months. And so, by the grace of God, we've been able to build a business and build a model and build a service on fulfillment in our company that allows people this turnaround at a very high quality, custom tailored level. So this isn't like boilerplate template, cookie cutter, business to business. This is highly custom, purpose built for, um, their biggest job openings, the ones they struggle with the most. And then we can repeat that process every 2 months for all their positions in the company. But we try and start with the worst case first, and then work our way down so they can stop the main bleeding. But yeah, we pretty much come in and we install, set up, and train them how to maintain all the systems that you need and strategies, to effectively and authentically attract, train, and retain top talent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. So I'm gonna want I hope people go out and take a look at it and then want to connect with you because it and you cleared up something for me that it's different with everyone, right? It's not
Yeah.
and I love that you're having that sense of urgency, on it as well. I know it's been some time ago that people would put together business plans 30, 60, 90. I mean, why would you wait 90 days to do this? Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, come on, man. Don't send me a 30, 60, 90-day thing. I love that you're saying, hey, we're gonna work on this immediately. And if not, hey, here's our commitment to you. Clifton, this has been amazing. What amazing advice and great work that you're doing. Thank you so much. It's really, really needed. How can people connect with you and learn more about what you're doing and possibly want to work with you?
I mean, the best way to connect with me on a professional level to kind of get more about my thoughts and my beliefs, LinkedIn is the best place to connect with me professionally. Clifton S. Savage on LinkedIn. But of course, my website, serviceleaderssociety.com. That's where you're going to find more about the attraction system and all the other services that we offer, as well as, well, both places will be great, but especially the website coming up soon. We're going to have an ebook that we're publishing,
Oh,
and it's actually
okay.
called the Attraction Blueprint. And so
Mhm.
it's a do-it-yourself guide of literally the steps that we would use in-house that you could do yourself to build the attraction system. So it's something we want to give out to those people that maybe can't afford our services, maybe aren't ready for them all the way, but they want to learn more and at least start taking bits and pieces and implementing their business. It's for them because it's going to benefit them. It's going to benefit their employees, which is going to benefit the community, and that's my goal. So, but that's the best way to reach out to us.
That's awesome, and that's so generous of you. And you know, you said it earlier, and you really mean it. You really just want to help people get better at that. Clifton, thank you so much. This has been amazing. So much learning within a pretty short period of time, you know. And I'd love to connect with you again as we go down the road, and especially like if when the ebook comes out, we could talk about that. But thank you so much, man, for being so generous. With your time, you know, today and passing on so much for us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Kenny. Thank you so much for having me on here. And yeah, I hope someone will nug it away and go flight today, and they'll be better off for it. So that's what I'm here for. So thank you so much.
No doubt. No doubt. Awesome. Awesome. Well, folks, we're going to leave it there. This has been Kenny and Clifton with the Leading from the Middle podcast. We'll talk to you real soon.